Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Monday after Loretta Lynn. So if you were there, you guys are probably super sunburned. You guys are probably ready to just take the week off. But what a wonderful event. And sorry that I ran a little bit late. It was a first day of school. So, Rhino was nice enough to wake his ass up and hop on the podcast. But I don't think I woke him up. I'm pretty sure he's already run 10 miles and let's ask him. Well,
Yeah.
Rhino, I know it's only 7 a.m. there, but what have you already done this morning?
Yeah, definitely not run 10 miles. That doesn't, that, I don't push myself anymore. You know what I mean? It's just, if someone says, "Hey man, let's go train," I'm like, well, how hard are we going to breathe? Like, is it going to be, you get to a point where you've pushed yourself hard enough, you've challenged yourself enough, you've competed against, enough people that it's like, there's nothing in it. There's nothing in it for you. So my whole thing in my day or the way I train or whatever is just to feel good. I put 40 years into the sport. Yeah, I don't to ride and race or anything for a while, but there's a lot of time that puts a toll on the body. You know what I'm saying? And I've been through a lot of shit, a lot of injuries, a lot of stuff like that. So my thing is just trying to make sure that I move and groove, well, that my body's feeling good, my mind's feeling sharp, I'm feeling aware, I'm connected to life and staying away from just kind of society, so to speak, by how much it can take you away from yourself, from what you're breathing, what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're paying attention to. You can lose yourself, you can lose yourself and you can start getting into somebody somebody else's kind of like mindset world. And so, yeah, I wake up at 5 a.m. Make First thing I do is make some warm water with a big chunk of Himalayan sea salt in there because you have 82 different trace minerals in there. And then I've noticed that it takes pain away from me in the morning because you're putting that magnesium in you, right? Then I walk out here and I sit. You can call it meditation, but sometimes my mind's just like woo 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 woo. So it's just sitting with myself. A lot of people don't do that. They don't give themselves time to ponder on what's going on in their lives, what they're held up on, what their dreams are, or just allowing their mind to kind of just go and have some creative thoughts. So I sit there for 30 minutes, then I get up and I have these hiking trails that I've built on my property that are just, I say they're probably the best in Southern California, because I rake them, I shovel them, I I put some time into it. So I do my hiking, and then I have places on my trail that I do a lot of movements. So I do a lot of twisting and movements because my spine, I'm fused from 2 to 7, 2 to 7.
Oh,
And I do that, watch the sun come up with my eyes, because it's very important. So many people are, blocked from the sun from wearing sunglasses all day, and that has a lot of disruption in the circadian rhythm of the body. So it's very important to see that sun come up, and then to me, that's honoring the day of like, hey, I'm excited about being alive, being a human, because I'm up before the sun's up. And then I do some more movements, water some trees. Then I have this thing that I walk, barefooted, because you can call me whatever you want, but grounding to the earth, the home that we live on. We're part of this thing, and I'm not getting hippy dippy or anything like that because I'm not that guy. But I know the difference when I take my shoes off and I put my feet on the ground and I walk, just that feeling of that earth. So it's grounding, and everybody's been reading about this, and I've been doing this stuff for years, but, grounding. So you're getting that. That pure energy. You're not getting energy from coffee. You're not getting energy from, looking at social media. You're not getting energy from, porn or whatever the hell you're doing to try to wake yourself up in the morning. You're connecting to, what is the source, right? The ground, waking up early, getting good nutrients in it, sitting with yourself, watching the sun come up, listening to things. And then I come back and get, it's my tea, coffee, whatever. Then I'll get into, answering emails or texts or little social media and stuff like that. So that's kind of my day. Oh yeah, forgot before that. Before I get into, that I get into the sauna and the ice bath also, because that's a big thing for me, because I feel the difference in my body. It takes pain away. I don't, I've had 26 different bones surgeries, head injuries, been paralyzed 4 times, and I take nothing for pain, not an Advil, not an anything. And this, so how do I stay away from that? Well, it's the way I eat, the way I live my life, and these little things of ice bath, sauna, yoga, hiking, but never doing anything too strenuous on my body, because then I become sore. Or do I get too lazy with my body because I get sore? So I have to find that happy medium. And that's what people aren't realizing in life, is finding the happy medium. You know, Too much, you lose yourself. Too little, you put yourself to sleep. So find that happy medium in life, and then you kind of have a little bit more of a flow. Simplicity is my medicine.
Yeah.
Not not
The
not
key to
abundance.
excellence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
simplicity. Simplicity creates freedom, freedom of time, freedom of mind. If you have freedom in time and mind, well, what's going to come out of you? Usually creativity. And have you ever seen an unhappy creative person? Never. When someone's being creative, they're alive. They're like a kid
Yeah.
again. They're kind of, they're flowing. And so that's my biggest thing, is like, finding that simplicity in life, and not the extreme, the abundance. Yes, abundance is great, but not when you're trying to find your happiness in it. Because the more you gain, the more fear you have of how to keep it, and the more stress you have of not to lose it. Right. But when you have simplicity, when anything kind of goes wrong or doesn't go right in your life, well, you're a little bit more at ease with it, because you don't have $10,000, $12,000 a month in bills, and 3 houses that you got to take care of, and 45 employees. And it's just, it's like, because you don't take any of that shit with you, man. I've never
Yeah.
seen a hearse with luggage racks. So this is what kind of blows me away, and I've been in it too. Just gain, 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 gain. But where are you taking it? Where are you taking it? you know it's
Well,
all
it's
left behind. Everything, your wife, your girls, I mean, your money, your fame, everything is going to be somebody else's. If the lights go out, it's all going to be somebody else's. You know what I mean? And so I think people get too trapped into that of, they're not successful, or they're not enough, or they're not happy unless they have that shiny car, that big house, that million followers, that stuff like that. So we've
on
all
their
gotten
shoulders.
lost in it. Yeah, we all have gotten lost in it, but there comes a time, maybe, when you've been challenged enough, that you see that that's all kind of fictitious, and just that simplicity, not having any stress, not having any worry, not having any fear of losing anything. Well, then you can kind of be like, ah, life's kind of cool. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Life's kind of cool, because again, man made all that stuff. Man made money, man made power, fame, all these different things. But to me, why are we here on earth? To me, it's kind of to play, and enjoy. Because you tell me, what's going to be better than this? You know, when you die, you go to heaven. Okay, well, explain it. Can you explain something more amazing than the life that we're living right now, and the opportunities that we have, and the ability to be alive? Nah, you know. So, sorry, I went to a little bit off the
No,
deal,
no, no.
but
Honestly,
I'm
I like
passionate
where the
about it, man. I'm passionate about it, because my whole life was trying to be the best at something and conquer something, and you know, and uh, and kind of challenge myself at something. But then when that starts to go away, you got to find a new path. You got to find a
yeah,
new path,
purpose.
but you can't take away that inner, you know, that inner energy. That energy to go race a motorcycle, the energy to wake up every day, to be, consistent, disciplined, have fortitude. Well, that's what made you successful in a different area. But if you can't do that anymore, well, don't lose that energy of you, right? Just change directions. And that's what I was talking to Mike Brown about, because we've had, when I went back and saw him, I told him, I said, hey man, the toughest thing, what you're going to go through, is you're going to try to find out who you are, because you can't be Mike Brown anymore. Like I couldn't be Rhino anymore. And I'm like, well, fuck, who am I? So, but I couldn't, I didn't want to let that fire inside me, that burns, fade away. I just had to change it into maybe a different direction. Is it as exciting as racing motorcycles? Nah, definitely not. But it's still that inner, kind of like that inner fire that keeps you going. And so don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose that spark.
Well, Rhino, like honestly, I really enjoy where this conversation is going because I honestly I forgot how spiritual you are and how much I can learn from you, and honestly my viewers could learn from you because like you said, simplicity is the key to excellence. And we get so caught up with just the next thing now. And unfortunately, what you just your analogy on just wanting more and more. I had something massive happen this year where, I put myself in a situation where I had $240,000 stolen from me. And it's kind of,
Whoa.
it's,
Whoa.
yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah.
wanting
Whoa.
more and more and more.
Yeah.
So, I trade cryptocurrency and that kind of stuff. I've always been into finance. And it ended up in a scenario where like I couldn't lose, like there was
Mhm.
too much at hand, so I was unwilling to lose. And then this offshore exchange, basically they saw that I had a $2 million position going. And so they liquidated me. They stole my funds,
Mm.
but, and
Wow.
so I feel cheated. I feel honestly, it's been a difficult process for me. And, I have to think back and take accountability to where it's like, okay, it was, I was cheated. If the world was fair, that would have never happened. But I put myself in a position to put trust in somebody that I shouldn't have put trust into. And then when I go back and think about why I got into that place, well, okay, I get in trouble for oversharing, Rhino, but my wife just became a vet.
Yeah, I'm the
And
same. I'm the same,
And
Yeah.
my wife is this beautiful, just 10 bombshell, and like our entire relationship, I have taken care of her. I got her through vet school, paid for vet school and everything. And then, she's
You had to get her glasses or what, man?
no,
She's
no,
saying
no, no.
she's
It just,
not saying she's a 10 and she's a bombshell. I'm like, but she can't see very well. No.
dude, honestly,
What's she
it was
doing
the
with you? No.
it was the Stockholm syndrome. It was locking her in the basement until she said yes, was how I
Yeah.
brainwashed her. But I think a little bit of it, the more I've looked back on stuff, is it was like I wanted to make sure that I was still the breadwinner, and I wanted to make sure that, like, hey, maybe is she with me because of what I can provide to her, and all that stuff, like you said, is fictitious, and eh, it was lack of substance and like lack of real direction and stuff, and you get so caught up, like you said, with waking up and the first thing you look at is some social media stuff. And sometimes you feel bad because you're like, oh my God, look at that guy. He's got everything I want. And oh, look at his body. He looks great. Oh, look at the girl he's got. It's just, it's all fake, but there's no clarity. It's more clouded.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, to go back a couple minutes of, hey, you're so spiritual. Now, I'm not spiritual because that's just another word for religion. You know what I mean? Don't label me. It's just I'm grounded. I'm grounded and I'm tuned in. Simple,
Well said.
simple, what everybody should be. You put a name on yourself, you put a label on yourself. Now you have to be that. You have to be that. Now there's an expectation to live up to that. Like if I'm a vegan, okay, I'm not, but at all. But if I was a vegan, you know what I mean? Now I have to live up to that. And man, that fucking hamburger smells so good. But I've told the whole world that I'm vegan and I can't go back. You know what I mean? And then you take on the energy and all the hype or whatever around it. So I make sure that nobody labels me or do I label myself, because then you put yourself into a box. You know, if you
Hmm.
say I am this, oh really? That's all you are? That's all you are. Well, no, man, I'm love, I'm compassion, energy, I'm forceful, I'm kind, I'll rip your head off, there's so many parts of us. So, that part, but then also you're saying, we all try to, I guess you get to a point where you try to keep up with people, or you're, you're envious of people. And that's all social media is a comparison and envy. That's all it is, or judgment and envy, so to speak. And so Anybody that's walking around, you see this on Instagram that, oh, you got to be making $200,000 a month or you're nothing or this, and this guy's all jacked.
Yeah.
And, it's
Yeah.
like,
You see
I
that
go, you
all
know
the
what,
time.
bro, let me go hang out with you for a week or two and I'll see your holes in a second. You know what I mean? So just because everybody's showing their positive sides on social media doesn't mean that their weaker sides aren't even stronger. You get what I'm saying? And let me take
Hmm.
away your money. Let me take away your fame. Let me take away the letters behind your name and see how high you can, walk with your chest high. These guys would sink. These guys are weak. There's so many people that are fictitiously powerful in this world because they have money or they have some letters behind their name or they have a bunch of followers. But you take that shit away, and these they'll turn into boys, because everybody wants to look at them as men. But again, who are they? They those are just kind of like little hanger honors because all that shit has to go away. And if you took it away, that manhood would kind of like, to me, disappear. Because I know a lot of people that are successful and a lot of people that and self-help and all this, and I know their holes, man. I know their holes and I know their weaknesses, and they're no different than anybody else out there thinking that they're less than, because there's not a single person on earth that cannot teach you something, right? Everybody
Yeah.
can teach you
Yeah.
something. So everybody's better than you in a certain area. You know what I mean? Just your
Yeah.
area makes money or your area gets recognition, right? And that's it. So, you know,
Hmm.
I you got to use social media as an entertainment, not as anything else. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Just know that everybody has their shit.
Yeah. I like what you're saying because I've always told people like you could learn from the guy on the side of the road that's homeless. He could teach you how to
Oh yeah.
panhandle, you know, as opposed to
Yeah,
so many
yeah.
people just looking back and like society nowadays, Rhino, it seems as if like your dick length is how many zeros you have in your bank account. And that's kind of where everyone gravitates toward, and that's not it. So I want to ask you, like, have you always been this in tune, or was this something you had to learn?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely something that, I mean, I guess I've always been in tune, but just in a completely different way, like a completely different way, like tuned into keeping my routine, keeping my schedule, training, racing that motorcycle, just never getting off track that way. Just that I was in tune to be just a just a competitor, a
Mhm,
forceful, just competitor. I mean, it was insane. So that, but then once that goes away, that energy kind of turned and went into just like the simplicity of life and just, you know, um, trying to find it, trying to understand, not even really understand, just tuning into what's around us. You know what I mean? Because everything, all that, the money's outside of you, the fame's outside of you, the popularity's outside of you, the things are outside of you. But what makes you tick? What makes you tick? And not before you have to accomplish anything or get anything or show anything. Just like that person that wakes up in the morning, what makes that person tick? Before you turn on social media, before you do all these things. And that's like the worst thing people can do is just right when they get up is to allow their mind to start just spinning and spinning and spinning, and then you start getting into this world of thoughts, or get on social media and then all of a sudden you're already
mhm,
waking up feeling like you're less than.
mhm,
My advice for people is like the first thing you should do in the morning is get up and walk. Go walk out all that stress, all that worry, all that you wish you could have, and wish I didn't have to, and whatever's going on inside you, you need to walk it out. And it's so important to just get up right away and tune into yourself, because you're the first ingredient to everything that happens in your life. Every thought, every emotion, every action, every connection, you know everything. And so if you don't honor and nurture that first ingredient, well, then everything that you come into in your day is, to me, is going to be less than. But if you nurture that ingredient, which is you're the seed. Well, then
mhm.
everything's going to be, everything's going to be, everything's going to benefit from you. because you're happy, you're relaxed, you're clean, you're not carrying on anything, you're feeling loose, you're flowing. So that's where people to me go wrong, is that they don't take the time to be a little selfish. And it's not taking time away from anybody, it's being selfish, meaning just give yourself a little time. Honor yourself. Honor yourself, because you're the first ingredient to everything. So why not put your attention on that person first? You know what I mean? And then instead of letting everything else come before you, and then you feel like you have no time for yourself, and then after a while you're feeling like you're lost. You know what I mean? And so that's always been my kind of thing, is like I put myself first in the morning before I throw myself into anything else. And it's nothing else except just, tuning in,
Yeah.
moving and grooving.
Back to a little bit of what you said about Mike Brown, and again, I'm not trying to put stuff into a box. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to potentially help understand with some of the viewers, because and honestly kind of point to like some of the things that I struggled with. I was never as successful as you are in motocross and a lot of other guys, but when that was taken away from me, I was lost, Rhino. I was I didn't know what to do, and I
Yeah.
find a
Whoa.
lot of people, it took me a while to realize that I need to learn how to like meditate. I need to learn how to be okay with who I am, because what it turned out was riding was like a forced meditation for me, where when I was on a
Oh,
dirt bike, everything, all my problems disappeared, and that's why it was so addictive. And the more and more people I talk to, it's sort of the same thing. And I see a lot of guys that win championships or what kind of fall down a path of potentially a destructive mannerisms, because they're chasing this high that they once were given. So what is your advice to individuals that are chasing a fix rather than like dealing with potentially some underlying issues?
that's the thing, is when I talk to people at racing, they're like, "Oh man, racing's so hard and training and this," and I laugh. I say, I said, "No, you know what's good? You know what's hard is when you have to stop. That's what's hard, is when you have to stop. It's not the sport you're doing, it's not the activity you're doing, because that's an outlet. It's an outlet. You can cover things up, and that's where I think a lot of people have problems when they're done racing, is all this stuff starts to bubble up, because we've always had like a band-aid to put over anything that was, a struggle, or a confusion or a challenge or whatever, because we had something to challenge ourselves, something to kind of put it out there. But when that's gone, you have to look in the mirror and go, well, who am I? And that's the same thing with a Brownie. So, with Mike, I just one day, we were competitors, we fought this and that. We've been chummy lately and friends and stuff like that. We never had any hanger-ons. I don't have any grudges against anybody. I don't know how to hold a grudge. But one day I'm like, hey, I need to go see Brownie for some reason, my intuition. So Janelle, the woman I'm seeing, called his girlfriend, and they talked, and she said, hey, how would it if Rhino came out and saw Mike? And she just said, oh my God, that would be amazing, because nobody comes and sees him anymore. The team went there for maybe 2 days and that was it. And they live in the same town. None of the riders really come. The family came and kind of did them dirty, and he says, we're just alone now. So I said, boom, I booked a ticket that day. And I said, oh, but don't tell him. I want it to be a surprise, so then maybe there's some joy that comes out of him. So they were going to the airport. They knew they were going to go pick somebody up, and I guess Brownie just named every single person in the industry of what it could be, but never named me. And then he shows up at the airport and he sees me and he's like, what, Rhino? And we hugged it out, and I saw a little tear come out his eye, and then you know
Yeah.
we connected. And that's where he's having a little bit of a struggle, like, well, what do I do next? And that's going back to our conversation, is like, you can't let that inner fire, that inner that light dim. You know what I mean? They go away. Just have to redirect it. And so, I've redirected it and stuff that, yeah, it's definitely not as exciting, yoga, hiking, just kind of just trying to be more at peace here, because, yeah, it's been a struggle for me, man. It's been a big struggle trying to find something to replace riding a motorcycle. And it's so obvious because even yesterday somebody says told me, hey man, I have a bike, you want to go out to Kauai? And I live like 10 minutes from there. I'm like, okay. And I've only ridden probably twice and 3 times in like
Yeah. Was that where
2 years,
you
you
met
know.
Langston? Because I did see something on your social
Yeah, I
media.
did. I saw, yeah, Langston did that the beginning of the week, and then someone else did that this weekend. And I'm like, oh shit, man, only 10 minutes away. But when I
Yeah.
got done, I was telling Janelle, I'm like, that's what I miss, you know, kind of like, I know I can't go do it, but just the day was complete. The day was complete after I rode.
Mhm.
I was, you know, I was kind of worn out. You know, there was something exciting, something challenged me. There was an accomplishment feeling, and I'm like, yeah, now I can just kind of go home and just relax, you know. But when you don't have that, it's almost like you're searching for that accomplishment, you're searching for that excitement, you're searching for that you know, that challenge. And then we start to go down roads that we you know, that aren't really the best for us. But you know, I think that's just at a time that you're in a search, you know, and everybody's going to be in a search a little bit. Everybody's going to be walking around with blinders on, so to speak, until you know, you find that path. But yeah, I mean, that's the hardest thing in the world to me for anybody that's been successful, or even a mother or a father. You know what I mean? Like when they're, you know, like when they've accomplished enough, or their kids move out, even a mother that she's not the mother anymore, nobody to take care of. So everybody has to fall from grace at some point. And you know, the guys that are at the highest have to fall from grace the most, because you know, their recognitions and what they can give back is only if someone comes to their house and goes to that trophy room and sees those number one plates or whatever hanging on the wall, right? So to me, it's like, okay, you go through all this stuff, all these challenges, this was, now what can you give back? What can you give back? Life has given you all this. Now it's your turn to give back. And that's where, you know, I feel, you know, very blessed that, yeah, I didn't win the championships and this and that, or get to the, you know, be as successful as I thought I should be. But what I've given back to the sport, whatever anybody wants to say, has been, I think, pretty profound by, um, you know, just the
Mhm.
ability to share. And I love to share. If you share, you care. If you care, you share. Right. So,
Yeah. Because one could argue, again, this arbitrary fake word success, right? Because it's truthfully different to everyone. Someone could argue that you've been more successful since your pro career ended, just with how many people you've been able to touch. And like,
yeah.
I know damn well, like this whole stupid YouTube crap, um, I've touched more people doing that than I ever could have dreamed of actually writing,
Yeah.
which is kind of a funny full circle on stuff. And what you're talking about with Mike Brown, I mean, dude, that dude, I've talked with my wife about it. Because I've been wondering how well he's doing because of the fact I'm like, dude, this is like the number one guy that has been a top factory guy that's getting paid to race for 50 years. So there's like
Mhm.
nothing, that's his entire life. Where there's some
Yeah.
guys that do it for 20 years or so, and then it just seems more profound because he's been the one guy that has continued to um, still have like a factory ride, not hanging up the
Yeah.
boots. Sorry,
Yeah, and
I'm
that's the thing is,
digressing.
you know, he told me, he goes, man, I should have quit three times ago, so to speak. Like he's had some big crashes, and he's like, all right, I'm done. You know, okay, I got to stop. And to me, like I told him, I said, well, you know, maybe life wants a different side of Mike Brown to come out. You know, maybe a little bit more of a gentle side, maybe a little bit more of a sharing side, not such a competitive, have to beat everybody, have to, you know, show everybody. And so, you know, just like you have kids, and life is kind of like a parent to me, you know. And you know, in life, God, whatever, doesn't have a voice, it speaks in situations. That's his communication, you know. It's situations where you have to go, huh, ponder on it. You're not gonna hear something. So let's say your kid pissed in the corner, you'd be like, hey, dude, you know. All of a sudden next day you look over and he's pissing in the corner again, you're like, bro, hey, you know, give him a little smack. And then next day he's pissing in the corner again. You kind of pull him, go, dude, if you do that again, I'm going to whoop your ass, right? Next day he pisses in the corner again. Then you smack him. Well, that's what life is like, little things, little things. Oh, you're not going to listen to me? Oh, you're not going to
Yeah.
listen. All right, well, I'm going to make you listen to me. And that's just the only thing that have felt in my life, that things just kind of got bigger and bigger when I didn't listen to the first initial message of like, hey, it's time to stop. And just like you're able to give so much back to people, well, there's a certain type of person that doesn't know how to give back. They only know how to take. So there's a lot of champions in this sport that still are just taking from the sport. They're not really giving anything back. You know what I mean? And so I would much rather be able to give so much back to people and make a difference in all these people than to feel feel like I'm somebody, but they have to come to my house, go into my trophy room, and look at my number one place that probably have dust on them, right?
Mhm.
So, right. So for me, being able to share so much and give back to the sport is much more rewarding. Just like when I saw Brownie, when I came home, I just felt full of life. I felt full of energy, and that was so much more rewarding than if I came out of there with a $20,000 check, right? Because it's
Mhm.
fictitious. You get that and you put it into the bank, and you didn't really put money in the bank. You put numbers in the bank. So there's not much substance in it, and so that's kind of like the deal is making sure that you have that simplicity of not always being in that mindset of taking, because giving is very powerful, very powerful. Like, we don't people don't know how to give time. Let's say I said, hey man, my buddy's hurt, can you donate? You'd be like, yeah, 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 give me my phone, boop, send, done. Never even thought
Mhm.
about it. But how many people can give their time to people? you know that is what's truly important, and that's what people truly need, is maybe somebody's time. Hey, and that's what I want to kind of start, in maybe a little foundation here on we give time, of like, when people are in a shitty situation, let's say like Aiden Zing's dad. I was nervous, but I wanted to call him, but I never did. It was like, hey man, hey, I want to give you my time. I want to give you my time. I'm going to give you 10 hours of my time. Do you need me to wash your car, mow your lawn, take care of the bikes that you don't want to look at, be a shoulder to cry on, an ear to yell at? Whatever the fuck you need, I'm here. But I'm not just going to give you $50. You know what I'm saying? Like, try to
Yeah.
give back to people and give them your time and just show that you care. And I think that's pretty powerful, and that's what's missing a lot in this world, is that.
Honestly, I don't have words, because it is so profound with what you're suggesting, because it's a check mark for people, if they're like, hey, look, I helped, but then I get to go on. It's really no big deal out of their life, right? They're like, I'll feel
Yeah.
sad for 10 seconds and then move on. Like I've thought a lot about guys like Jerry Robin, guys that
Yeah.
have been privateers in the sport for so long, and it seems like the sport is kind of just taken from them, and now they can't walk. And then I look to see, he just started he's married now, and what they're
Yep.
going through. And Rhino, like, that was one of the scariest things for me, was being in the hospital and them telling you, like, I'm never going to walk again. And you've had that happen 3 times or so, but yet you still have gotten on a motorcycle, so can you explain?
Never said I was a smart man. Nah, it's yeah. I mean, it's the scariest thing ever, and you can't explain it to anybody when you're laying on the ground and you cannot move anything. And I've been there, screaming at the top of my lungs, like, oh my God, it happened. It finally happened. Oh my God, oh my God. I remember it. I remember it. But when I ride now, I ride on the vet track. I don't go to the big track. And it's like kind of like being a soul surfer. You know what I mean? An old guy just kind of likes to just feel the wave and this and that. So for me, the same thing is, I just love to feel that traction, maybe getting a wheel over something, hitting that gear the right point, downsiding something, hitting that berm right. Just, it's all a feeling to me now, not check me out, look how fast I am, anything like that, or let me see me. I think I can do that jump. No, 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 no. I don't want to do that jump. And so, and I ride every once in a while, but you just have to take your ego and make sure you keep it in the closet before you leave the house, and not bring that to the track, because you always remember who you were, you remember how to do it. And so you just have to have a little bit of you know, you gotta have a little bit of control over yourself. But yeah, it's gnarly. I mean, I've had in the last 2 months, a friend being paralyzed from neck down. Mike Brown, of course I didn't know Aiden, but kind of know him at the track, Aiden. And then my other buddy just called me a couple weeks ago and said, yeah, hey, my friend just got paralyzed. I'm like, no way. He goes, yeah, it was something simple. And he sent me a picture, and the dude's standing on the rock right behind me, meaning that he showed me a pic. He's been at my property. And I'm like, holy shit. So all that happens in such a short amount of time. And that's the kind, I just had the idea of like, just, how cool would it be if somebody, because it's not when you're in the hospital, it's still kind of like, everybody's taking care of you, everybody's coming in, it's not so bad, you're getting waited on. The darkness comes when you go home, and then reality sets in, and you're like, holy shit, holy shit. And so if you could have someone show up at your place and just, out of the goodness of their own heart, and just spend some time with you, I think that would be very powerful for people. And that's what I kind of want to start this foundation. It's not about a money thing, it's about giving your time, you know? And if you truly cared about somebody, you could give their time, not just money and not just typing, oh, I'll pray for you. Come on, bro. You know,
Hmm.
that's not, because again, if all that stuff worked, and if all that stuff worked, then everybody would come out of their serious situation. Then all these people that are paralyzed that got prayed for would be walking. You get what I'm saying? So I don't feed into any of that shit. You know, it's how can you help somebody, not just giving them some words. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
dude, it sounds so, as the combination of this whole podcast, it sounds so simple, right? But yet nobody has done it yet.
well,
Man,
it's being done. It's being done. It's already on its way. So I haven't really talked about it, and just and again, give me your time. So let's say someone got hurt or whatever, and just say, hey, Jeremy, McGrath, would you be willing to go, spend some time with this guy, or Jeff Stanton, or myself, or whatever it is. Just, you know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of what I want to I want to do, and that fills my heart more than becoming successful, or becoming anybody. You know what I mean? It's yeah, it's that. So,
what is
because the
your
sport the
definition?
sport the sport needs it, man. The sport needs it, because the sport is so brutal, and it does not give a shit about you. It'll suck you in, dry you out and spit you out. You get what I'm saying? And, once you're
Yeah,
done, you just become a dirty tear off that's floating on the ground again. And the higher ups in the sport just don't give a shit. As long as they make their quota, everything's good. You know what I mean? But they're not seeing what it's doing to parents, it's doing to families, it's doing to riders, you know? And there's not anything being done to it, right? I mean, how many riders suffer, like absolutely suffer from disabilities after they're done racing? And it's not just because I can't walk or this or that. I'm talking emotional, mental, concussions, trauma, you know giving your whole life to the sport, and then being done and not really having the skills to do anything else. Oh, motocrossers are just stupid. No, 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 no. This sport is so extraordinary that we have to devote our lives to this and push out everything else, because you can't have two things going at the same time if you're going to be the best motocrosser. You have to be absolutely obsessed by it, and push. But that's a gift too. That's a talent, to be able to be so single pointedly driven that you can push things out and stay away from things, to get or to do what you absolutely love to do. But when it's done, it's like you come out of this dream, like, whoa, okay. But then
yeah,
after a while, like, see, I'm 52 years old now. After a while, things start creeping up on you. Maybe some mental stuff that you get a little bit more irritable, or this or that, and that comes from concussions, and little things start to happen, start to creep up on you, pain, you know emotional problems, and we're just left here with nothing. Most other sports kind of help these guys after they retire, but motocross, they're done. You want to go to a supercross? Oh, they don't give you a pass. You have to go find someone else to give you a pass. You want to after you've put your whole life into it, rode for the country, motocross the nations many times. Ask somebody for a motorcycle. Oh well, but then you see the surfer get a free bike, and you're like, what? The guy can't even ride barely. You're giving him a free bike, but not somebody that's done something in the sport. So there's not really anything that is given back to the the people that have paved the way or that have given their life to do what we all love to do, and that's ride motocross. And it's kind of a sad thing. It's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
sad thing. Is everybody? This is a very greedy, um, kind of like. Yeah, it's very greedy sport, meaning because you don't know when it's your last race and you're usually on your last dollar, you know? So everybody just wants to get, take, take, and not really, there's not any really time to be patient with it because it can go away at any time.
Yeah, which is the you have a lot of truth that because I see it, I see it all the time, and usually people like what's the saying that people either do things out of abundance or fear, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like the sport does a lot of stuff out of fear. They
Oh,
just
yeah.
and then
Well,
everyone is
that was my thing about braces and stuff, and everybody want to call me crazy. Neck braces, knee braces, right? Oh, Rhino, well, why don't you just not wear a helmet? Dude, wake up and grow up, okay? If you the neck braces, they put everybody in it's such a weak, unstable, uncoordinated position. I'm just telling you how the body works, and now you see what happens. Same with knee braces. The knees move 30, 40 degrees. I'm not even going to get into it. But again, if the body works better not being braced up, if the body has more flow, has more stability, more balance, more, strength, all that, not being braced up, well, then that's probably the way to choose, because what are you trying to do in the sport? You're trying to be the best you possibly can. So if you're limiting the body from being able to being used at its true potential, well, then you're riding less than. So most people want to make their decisions out of fear, not out of efficiency. You get what I'm saying? You can be hurt. It doesn't matter what you have. You can have every damn protection on you. You still can be hurt in the sport. So you have to accept that, realize that, and then go, okay, well, how can I stay away from that the best? And that's not by just patting yourself up and having shitty technique and not good approach and all this. It's about trying to make yourself more as the most efficient as you can. Like, let's say Jet. Jet is the most efficient rider we've ever seen. So he's going to stay away from big crashes. He's going to stay away from little things like that. But somebody that's not as efficient as him, let's say like a Hampshire or whatever, you're going to see more crashes or whatever that way. You get what I'm saying? So,
Mhm.
when you're making your decisions out of fear, well, then you're usually, just in somebody else's mind or somebody else's words, or you're stuck in the past of what happened. So to be a good motocrosser, you have to have a very bad memory. Not to be stupid, but meaning don't bring the past into the present. Because if you do that, you're going to prepare for it. And if you prepare for something that you don't want, well, you're going to be hesitant, you're going to be tight, you're going to be stiff, and then you magnify everything. Right?
You make a good point because I know, I've torn my ACLs with braces, without braces. I've broken my femurs with braces, and like even when I was wearing a neck brace, I broke my collarbone, both collarbones a couple times wearing braces, right? Because they just sat on here. And
Yeah.
it kind of brought in this mindset of, oh God, I forgot my neck brace at home. Like I can't ride, and so you're in this level already of fear rather than putting your mind ready to excel and I don't know, be a gladiator when you're out on the track. So you make a
Yeah.
good point with all that. And so when I've heard that stuff, I've talked to a lot of riders in the pits, and a lot of them say like, "Hey, you can't say this because they're sponsored by such and such, but they're wearing knee pads, you know,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah,
they're
more and more
sponsored."
people have moved to knee pads because again, when you come into the sport, it's forced in you that you have to have knee braces. So the parents are buying kids knee braces, and so they start wearing knee braces their whole life. So they've never tried without a knee brace. And
Mhm.
there's not a single person that I've ever talked to that have tried it and said that, oh, I didn't feel as good. The only reason they didn't like it is because they didn't feel safe. You get what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
if it did protect you, if it did stop knee injury, well, then why in the last 20 years that every single person that's ever blown their knee out has had a knee brace on? And I can name the best of the best of the best of the best. Because to me, what you don't use, you lose. So if your knee doesn't have to stabilize itself, it becomes weaker. 72 hours with a cast on your arm, your muscles start to atrophy. 72 hours, right? And all knee braces slide down. So maybe that pivot point's in the wrong place. So now it's causing a different torque to it. So and so, I'm not, again, if I had something to sell you, well then you could say that you could come back to me with some hate. But I don't have anything to sell you. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just trying to show you another side, just the same thing I did with the neck braces, because there are so many coaches out there going, dude, I believe you 100%. I'm with you, but I'm afraid to tell anybody. Well, you know what? Somebody needed to have the balls to put themselves on the line and talk about what is going wrong with these neck braces and what's happening to, your technique and your approach to be able to get people to go, huh? And that's the same thing with knee braces for people to go, huh? Did I wear knee braces my whole career? Yeah. But one day I just was riding, after I was done racing, I'm like, dude, I don't want to get dressed. That just takes so long, putting the knee braces on and taking them off and do that. So I just put knee pads on and said, I'm just going to go out there and ride. After 2 laps, I'm like, oh, holy shit. Wait a minute. I can feel the bike. I extend my leg. It feels lighter. I have more movement. I can move the bike at my knees, because you have 30 to
Mhm.
40% of interior and exterior rotation right at the seat, the level of the seat. That's huge. Take 30 to 40% of movement out of anything in the motorcycle that's supposed to move and tell me how good you can ride that motorcycle. You will be less than. So same with the body. You know, the body's been designed to work, move, and groove one way. And if you believe in God, which most people say they do, well, then you're challenging its master's creation and trying to think that you can make it better, or safer. Yeah, helmet and stuff like that, but there's a fine line there, and I don't give a shit if someone wears braces or don't wear braces. I just wanted to share with you another side so you can go, I didn't think about that, but I'm a little too afraid, so I'm going to stay with knee braces. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody's like, you know what, I'm going to try that, and then I went, holy shit, that felt better. Well, cool, you improved. That's all I ever wanted it from anybody. And, but me, I get more shit from anything that I say, because it challenges people, and people don't
Yeah,
like
but
to be
that's
challenged in their way.
Mark Twain. If you find yourself on the side of the majority, you should stop and reflect. And that's one of the reasons why
Yeah.
I've always admired you, Rhino. But I am going to be devil's advocate, not because I disagree with you, but because I
Mhm.
genuinely want to know your objection to what I'm about to say. With knee braces, okay, the circumference of the knee, like if I was to do a squat on the wall, right, and I was to
Yeah.
squeeze a tennis ball, it would be much harder to squeeze than with like a watermelon, right? To hold my knees
Yeah.
together, holding that. The knee braces are so much thicker. Do you? I think you can hold the motorcycle harder because of just how much bigger they are. Agree? Disagree?
Yeah, of course. You could squeeze the motorcycle, but if you're putting all your attention on controlling that motorcycle with your knees, well, you haven't really thought about technique properly, because, where's all the weight on a motorcycle? Down low. The more weight you put down low, the better the bike handles, right? The first point of contact from bike to ground is the wheels. That's everything. Everything comes from the wheels and then right there. So the first point of contact from body to bike is your feet. So if you can be on your toes and grip with your ankles, grip with your feet, sorry, this fly, grip with your feet. Well, now this is where you should be gripping. This is where you should be controlling the motorcycle. The knees should have movement, not be gripping at the knees, but then your feet are pointed out. You get what I'm saying? So you can grip that way, but then you also, okay, I can grip the motorcycle a little bit better, but then I can't feel the motorcycle. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
grip the motorcycle maybe a little bit better, but now my leg just feels stiff and heavy, right? So yes, there is benefits, but then there's also, you know, I guess, you know, you know,
Pros and cons.
consequences or whatever. Yeah, pros and cons to it. Yeah, a little bit of this, but that. And so I always say, just I leave it up to the beholder. Hey, try it. You like it? Wow, you found something better. You don't like it? Well, now you're more confident the other way. No problem. Let's move on. You know, I don't
Okay.
care. I just want to share and give people another perspective. Just like, with the technique. The technique, this whole, all the new technique, the hips out, hips out, hips out, hips out. Well, I'm about to put a video up of the first time anybody ever videoed it and heard someone talk about the hips out, and that was back in 2009, 2010 when I put a video out, you know, and people thought I was crazy and this and that and what is this, but now everybody's starting to see how much better the body works and how much more one the body is with the motorcycle and the changing conditions on the track,
Yeah.
if that
What
makes
what, what
sense.
do you mean by hips out?
Well, as you see, Jet, his hips are always rotated out. They're never tucked in. So if you go back to our days, like in the 90s and stuff like that, everybody
Mm,
had butt tucked, back rounded, more of a rounded this. If you look at Jet, Hayden, and everybody now is a straight back and hips rotated out like you're about ready to do a squat. So when you rotate your hips out, you're putting weight into your feet, into your leg, into the rear wheel. When you rotate your hips out, you're allowing the upper body and lower body to have separation in it, just like the motorcycle has separation in it, right? When you rotate your hips out, you're allowing your core to come into play. So that's where you're stabilizing yourself. That's your chassis. You get what I'm saying? When you rotate
mhm.
your hips out, your back becomes straight. So now there's more balance. When you rotate your hips out, your back becomes straight. You take the weight off your arms because there's only one way to flow on a motorcycle, and that's with loose arms. Does that make sense? So as you
Mhm.
see with Jet, there's always weight going to the rear wheel. You see with Hayden, there's always weight going to the rear wheel. Going into a corner, you see how much more they're stretched out on the motorcycle. So now that body can move. You get what I'm saying? And not just be rounded up and stuck. So if the bike has separation to it, well, the body needs separation to it if it's riding that vehicle. You can't be doing something opposite of what the motorcycle's doing. And so if you look at a baseball, someone in the batter's box, a weightlifter, a football player, a whatever, when they're in their strong, stable, coordinated position, you are going to rotate your hips out. Same when you do a squat, same when you sit in a chair, same when you sit on the shitter in the morning. It's just a natural movement. It's where the body's supposed to be. You cannot change where the body's at its best. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's like trying to change the motorcycle of how it's been designed. Front wheel is always bigger than the rear wheel. They're always in the same spot. The engine's in the middle and the handlebars are up top. And it's been that way from day one. Yes, the technology has changed massively, but the idea of a motorcycle has never changed, and you will never change it. You can't. I tried, when I
Mhm.
was racing for HRC in Europe, we had a 20-inch front wheel and an 18-inch rear wheel. Yeah, it worked great at the first GP in hard pack, and in hard pack. But then when we tested and went to sand, holy shit, it was unrideable. It was unrideable. So just that little change changes that motorcycle. And so the same thing with the body, you can't go away from where it's at its strongest, most stable, most coordinated position. And that's what you're seeing with Jet and you're seeing with Hayden. It's the toes, it's a squeeze, it's the knees not coming in front of the shoulders ever, it's the hips rotated out, the back straight, the arms very loose, right?
Mhm.
That's because again, you have to be more efficient than ever riding these four strokes because there's so much power. They're going faster. There's so much inertia. You get what I'm saying? It's not like back in the 90s. It's not two-stroke days. It's a different way of riding these things. So The body has to be in that position to withstand that speed, withstand that, inertia from a mistake. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's why I was so adamant. So for the last 15 years of pushing this technique into motocross, and I really feel that I changed it. I really do.
No,
It
a
came in
hundred
at it
percent.
came
I
in
know I've learned a lot
came
from
in
you.
at it came at the right time, and I don't know where it came from. I swear to God, I do not know where it came from. It's just like I got downloaded with this idea of gripping with your feet and hips rotated out and da da da. And I went out and was right. That's when I was riding a bit, but I was retired, and I went out and I rode, and I really focused on being on my tippy toes and squeezing with my ankles. And I'm like, wow, what a difference. Then I had this idea of focusing on rotating my hips out, and I started riding that way, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, what a difference. I couldn't believe how much difference it was, because I didn't ride that way when I raced. I rode differently, back rounded, all that, because we didn't know any different. But once I started bringing that in, and it was the perfect timing because these four strokes were coming in at the same time. So to me, you know, if technology is going to improve, well, then the know-how, the approach, and the technique of the rider has to improve also, right? The problem was right when that happened, then these neck braces came out, and everybody started being flat-footed, knees in front of their shoulders, upper body in the back of the bike, which is the most dangerous, weakest, unstable position you could ever be in. And that's why we had, to me, so many crashes, and to me, a lot of riders not hitting their potential, because you know you know your speed is only good as your technique allows. This is why Jet
Yeah.
can go so fast. This is why Hayden can go so fast. This is why you're seeing Hunter ride even faster now, because his hips are more rotated out than ever.
Do you think that's why guys like Ryan Villapoto were riding so much with the ass end because of the neck brace? And I mean, do you think, because Ryan Villapoto was a
Well,
guy that had a lot of equipment, safety equipment that he rode with sometimes the chest protector and the knee braces, and it looked like he always was racing with the ass end.
yeah, I mean, Villapoto had a little bit of a different style, and I understand it now, because he has the same problem as me. Is like, this is all I could move my wrist up my whole career. That's it. It's all the movement I have. So I was, different. So I came over the handlebars, more over the front like we do. But when I gassed it, my body would sink to the side, So that's what I think started causing more of my crashes and stuff like that. But he sat on the back of the bike more. His back was more straight. But the biggest thing with him was he was on his tippy toes, and he squeezed the bike so hard with his feet. So when him and Dungy were battling, you saw the difference. He was so tight with his feet that you never saw swaps. You never saw the back end coming around. But Dungy was flat footed. And so the bike would kind of dance around, get on the gas, it would come around. And I had many talks with Dungy about his toes and his feet and this and that. And he started changing his way. And he said he couldn't believe how much better it was, because he did ride flat footed because of those neck braces. But when Villapoto rides now, what doesn't he have on? A neck
Neck brace.
brace. So
Mhm.
it just takes time. It takes one day to try it and be like, oh, holy shit, I can see actually. You know,
Yeah.
I can see, because again, we let things come into the sport without any scrutiny, without any testing, with nothing. You know, we allow things to come in the sport. So the first neck brace that came in was the most dangerous thing you could ever put on the body. A 3-inch carbon fiber strut resting on your spine that has no movement to it. That's idiotic. Idiotic. And everybody just jumped to it. You get what I'm saying? And then now, you have all these coachings and stuff like that, but there's no scrutiny to it. There's no, what are you teaching? Where's the fundamentals, right? Oh, you didn't touch little Bobby's weenie? Okay, cool. Here now you can be a coach. But where is the scrutiny? Where is the
Mhm.
baseline level of what you're teaching? That is so important, because the sport, everybody, is the most dangerous sport on earth. It's not you get kicked in the shins at soccer, you die. So if people aren't taking this serious about what they're teaching riders, well, it needs to be looked at. We need to have a little bit more scrutiny in the sport about what's being taught and what's being allowed in, you know? And so that we can try to make it safer. Are you ever going to make it safe? No, never. But that's what's so cool about it, is that there's a risk of death. That's fucking cool. I mean, I hate to say it, but that makes you feel alive. Why do you think people
Yeah,
like war?
that's the
You know, why do
adrenaline.
people sign up for the military? And why do people go to war? And then when they come back, they're like, man, can you sign me up again? You know, I felt like I was a hero there. Now I come home, I'm a zero. There, I felt like I'm a man. When I come back, I can't even buy a beer. Right. So human nature likes that risk, likes to feel alive sometimes. But, just we need to have a little bit more scrutiny, a little bit more understanding of these tracks, slowing them down a little bit. They're MotoGP tracks on dirt now. They're just way too fast to me. And they need to slow these things down a bit. And
Are you
I
talking
mean, we
about
can
like
get into
north
this
of the?
conversation forever.
So I want to give you an out, Rhino, because I said you had to get to the track here. We're right
Yeah,
at that
yeah. We'll
time
take off for
when,
a second.
yeah. Do you have 5 more minutes or?
Yeah, yeah. I can be here till 8:30, and I'll go. I'll tell everybody I'll be a
Okay.
little bit late. They
Okay.
can't tell me anything. It's my world.
With with like I don't see a lot of guys wearing any shoulder protection, or they'll wear like a roost guard, but then it seems like from amateurs to pros, a lot of guys throw that stuff away. But a back brace in a crash could help you not break your ribs. Like you see a lot of guys with separated shoulders because they're not wearing anything, or dislocated shoulders or broken collarbones. Like it's almost guaranteed the top level guys, if they fall down decently, it's going to be a separated shoulder or something because they're not wearing anything. I believe I know your answer to this, but I'll still let you answer it.
um, yeah. For me, I don't think you can wear anything that's going to withstand an impact of a big crash that we can have. You know what I mean? You clip the front end and you go head first or shoulder first into the ground. I don't care what shoulder pads you have. You're going to dislocate you or break a collarbone. But when you start getting to such a level of speed, you cannot be at that speed being bound up, tightened up, braced up. You know what I mean? You have to. The faster you go, the more efficiency you need to have. It's
Yeah.
plain and simple. So that's the biggest thing is being able to feel loose on this bike, being able to move and groove, not feeling tight and robotic. That's not going to work anymore. I mean, it's not about how hard you ride these motorcycles nowadays. It's how you ride these motorcycles. You have to race these motorcycles for how they've been designed to go fast, not just override them like, two strokes. And so when the speed goes up and everything goes up, well, what's riding it needs to be more efficient. And so that's why I feel people take off their, those the chest protectors and stuff like that, just because they're feeling more efficient to it. Do I feel that you should have protection on the chest? 100%. Protection on the back? 100%. But it needs to be done in a very scientific way, not just, oh, here's this big plastic thing. Okay, cool. Or here, let's put these bull vests on these little kids that have no air to them and they're at Loretta's. Like, holy shit. I mean,
Mhm.
that's so primitive. Like, come on, gear companies. I know Alpine Star, hey, applauds to them that they're trying to bring some airbag systems and this and that, which is very it's getting to that point. But we
Well,
all need to come together to try to understand of bringing a little bit of simplicity to the the protective equipment that actually works, because we're never going to get away from wanting to feel loose, to wanting to feel a flow, to wanting to feel light on a motorcycle. You know what I mean? it's
yeah.
it's 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 just the sport we pick. So my thing is, do everything you possibly can to make sure that that situation you don't want to happen doesn't happen, by the way you eat, the way you think, the way you work out, the way you ride, who you hang around, what you're listening to, what you're watching. I mean, because you're a product of your environment. So the more you can, you know like I say, fine tune that and pay attention to what you're doing, well, then, you know, the less the chances are going to be of that happening. And if it does happen, you can look in the mirror and be like, you know what? I did everything I could possibly do for this not to happen. And, you know,
Mhm.
and instead of just having hopes, nobody should say, I hope for this, because on the other side of hope is fear. You're hoping
Yep.
something happens, but you're fearing that it's not going to happen. Right.
Yep.
you know, and
Well said.
and wishing and all these things. Either you know it or you don't know it. Either you do it or you don't do it. And whatever the consequences and situation is going to happen, because nothing happens in this world by accident.
Okay.
Nothing. Or it wouldn't be happening right now. Done.
Last two questions, because I respectfully want to get you out here on time. Um, with the innovation of electric bikes, is that something that's going to progress the sport or hinder the sport?
It'll progress the sport by maybe bringing more people in it, because now you can open up, tracks and things like more urban stuff like that. You can less noise, this and that, but it will not make the fan base grow at all. I don't see. It's the same thing that happened at, you've heard it, Formula One, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Ever heard of Formula E?
I mean, yes, but it's not near as popular as Formula One.
Exactly. Exactly. Not even close. And Formula One even lost fans when they started taking the noise away from the cars. And they're talking about bringing the noise back up. Right. So this is, spectators need that. They need that rush. They need that sound. They need that energy. It's like going to watch drag racing and watch electric drag racing. No one to be there.
Yeah,
What's so cool about drag racing is when the top fuels go down the thing, it takes your breath away. It's like,
yeah, it
oh
shakes
my
almost the
god,
stadium. Ooh.
yeah. So if you have to go to a stadium and the announcer says, "Okay, everybody, now be quiet," because everybody's talking will be louder than the bikes. That's not exciting. Now,
Yeah.
are they fun to ride? I hear, yeah, they're fun to ride. Are they the technology cool? Yeah. Um, but could it bring more people in? Yes, but they cost a fortune, right? And then you have to power them with a gas generator. But maybe they need to go like more Formula One, like the manufacturers need to bring out, you know, combustion and electric, right? Like now there's electric part
Mhm.
into
You
the
have a lot of
motorcycle
torque,
too.
but
Yeah, I don't know, but just does it have room for it? 100%. But does it need to interfere with with Supercross? Like you cannot bring an electric bike into a motorized sport, like riding together. I think that's so damn dangerous, because we go off sounds so much of who's behind us and who's the side of us and this and that. And if you can't hear anybody, and you're in a pack of five guys and you can't hear this guy over here and you just scoot over, well, there's your massive crash. So they need to all stay in their own lane. If you want to bring electric, then have electric class. Don't bring it into Do not bring it into a motorside, you know, a motored, class. Everything
mhm.
needs to have its space in its place, and then everybody can benefit from there. I think.
Rhino, do you think because of kids like my kids, right? Electric Stasic, then there's Electric 50. They're not really going to know much different. So do you think maybe just in a couple decades they won't miss that noise because they've been, lack of a
Yeah,
better
I
word.
mean, they might miss it, but okay, if your kid's growing up on an electric Stasic, cool, he's learning to ride, learning this, but then you get him electric 50, cool. Now you have a problem, because he just grew. And now he's going to get on a 65 and he doesn't know how to use a clutch. He doesn't know how to use a pedal brake. He doesn't know how to shift. He doesn't know how to, he doesn't know, the RPMs of a motorcycle. He's almost starting over again. So
Mhm.
unless you had, to me, I would never, if my kid wanted to ride or what, I would never put him on an electric anything except maybe a Stasic, just to get him the balance and the feel and to have some fun. Because if you had an electric 60, 80, 250F, 450, gotcha. But you don't really, so you're going to have to go to motors sometime. And to get all the manufacturers to make all their bikes electric, dude, you're talking a long time, a long time.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so that's why I say is, yes, welcome them in, but keep everybody in their lane. Don't intermix it. Keep them in their lane. That's why the girls, yeah, that girl just beat the boys, which is amazing, right? Is amazing. I mean, I've been waiting for that. But you can't bring the girls and say you have to race with the boys all the time, right? You can't do that. You have to be able to have their class too, so they can actually succeed in it, right?
Mhm.
So they can actually succeed. So so again, you got to kind of keep your lanes a little bit, but then you allow everybody to have their time, everybody to have their, their fun or their abundance. You know what I mean? And then there's not poking, nobody's trying to make any other side less than. It's all welcoming. I welcome the women in this sport. I think it's amazing. And it's been, finally, they have a little series for them, right? They're just as big a part of the sport as we are, just maybe not the numbers. The electric too, welcome them, but maybe have their own genre of sport. Like maybe take it urban, bring it into cities, downstairs, through the streets, metal ramps, stuff like that. I don't know. It's because there's no, someone could be sitting having a
Yeah,
coffee and
maybe
watching a
enduro or
motorcycle.
something.
Yeah, but just let's be inventive. Let's be inventive. Let's look ahead. This whole sport's always looking behind the last race, what this last person did. Yes, no. Like let's be progressive, and then I feel that we can kind of change some things in the sport. But we have our handcuffs on because the higher ups are very, 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 very aware to make sure there's no challenge, to make sure there's no bad words, and they will push you out. They will demote you, whatever it is, before, so they're not challenged in their way. Because to me, that's just called fear also. They
Hmm.
know,
It's
everybody knows
control.
that there's some holes. There's holes there. There's things that can be way better, things that they might be doing really dirty, and they don't want any challenge because then it'll expose what's going on. Right?
Yeah. Well,
So
damn it. Well, it's
yeah, I
a
know. I
couple
gotta, I
minutes
gotta, I
after
gotta, I
8:30.
gotta, I
Yeah,
gotta jam
I
out.
could keep you for 3 hours. I have a lot of
Yeah, I
questions,
know.
and so hopefully we'll do another part two, Rhino. But hey, thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving me your time. I sincerely appreciate it, and I know the fans do as well. So again, Rhino, appreciate you. Look up to you. You're a good mentor, and everyone, make sure you go follow Rhino. He's coming out with some great stuff. And until next time, bra da 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 da.
Bull.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.